There was an old magician, a sorcerer, who lived in a big castle. The sorcerer knew thousands of magic spells. He had spells for important things, like making himself invisible, but he also had spells for everyday things, like fetching water from the well to fill the pots and pans in the kitchen. The sorcerer wasn't alone in his big castle. He lived there with a young boy who was his apprentice, a student to whom he was teaching the art of magic. The apprentice loved learning from the sorcerer. Sometimes the sorcerer would let him try to cast a spell on his own, even though the apprentice was still learning and often got the spells wrong. One day, while the sorcerer was away from the castle, the apprentice decided he would try to cast a spell all by himself. Seeing a broom leaning against the wall, the apprentice tried a spell to make the broom go to fetch water from the well outside. He wasn't sure if he remembered it exactly, but gave it a try. In a loud voice, he called out the spell. Nothing happened. But then he thought he saw the broom move. And it moved again. Then the broom began to march across the room and down the hallway. The apprentice followed after the broom to see what would happen. The broom marched to the door of the castle and picked up a bucket. Then it marched out the door and headed for the well. The apprentice watched in amazement from the doorway as the broom marched to the well, filled the bucket with water, and headed back to the castle. "This is great," said the apprentice, quite proud of himself as he watched the broom march to the kitchen and pour the bucket of water into a big pot in the stove. "Won't the sorcerer be proud of me when he gets home?" Well, the broom didn't answer. It just headed back out the door and back to the well, where it fetched another bucket of water. "That's enough," said the apprentice to the broom. But the broom paid no attention and kept fetching water. The pot on the stove was overflowing. There was water all over the floor. "Stop!" shouted the apprentice. But things got worse and worse because the apprentice didn't know the magic spell to make the broom stop. stop the broom, the apprentice ran to get the sorcerer's axe. The next time the broom comes in, I'll chop it to pieces, thought the apprentice. When the broom returned, the apprentice took a swing at it with the axe, but he missed. He chased after the broom, swinging at it wildly with a big, heavy axe, but kept missing, and the broom kept fetching more and more water. Let me try the spell again, thought the apprentice. Nothing! He called it out again. Still nothing. He shouted it at the top of his lungs. Stop the broom! The apprentice swung the axe one last time, and this time he split the broom in two. And just to be safe, he split it again. And again. Whew, sighed the apprentice with relief as he looked at the broom shattered into hundreds of tiny pieces. But then the pieces of the broom scattered on the floor began to move. Then they began to grow and grow until each little piece of wood had turned into a new broom. And one by one, the brooms headed for the door, ready to fetch more water. Oh no, thought the apprentice, now I'm really in trouble. And he was. everything stopped. I must be dead, thought the apprentice. But he wasn't dead. He was saved. The sorcerer had returned home, shouted the correct spell, and put everything back the way it had been. You learned an important lesson today, didn't you? Asked the sorcerer. Yes, I did, answered the apprentice. I'll never again mess with things I don't know about. Please forgive me. Please, please, please forgive me, and let me continue to be your apprentice. Forgive you? Asked the sorcerer. I don't know if I should. But he did.